Is it his time?
And welcome to Off the Tee. My name is Chris Exusion. You can find me at Chris Ebom on Twitter and at OTT Matchups on Twitter. And, of course, on the Heat Ratio Network, everything sports betting and pretty much everything betting sports and just discussing sports. Special guest today, we got Jason Sobel, the senior writer at the Action Network, big-time betting site, big-time forum there for the most part. And he's also on PGA Tour Radio as well. Jason, thank you for being on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what's going on, Chris? Good to be here. Thanks for having me. What's going on? How are you?
Everything's good, man. The golf world's a lot of fun right now, especially on the betting end. I tell people every day that, this is the sport to bet on. It's the most exciting. You get the most sweat, short bets, long bets. You can pretty much bet anything in golf. And that's, I feel like it's the way to go in the long run.
Yeah, I think it's a great sport to make that investment, have that engagement with over the long term. You spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, basically breaking down all the analytics, all the numbers, figuring out who you like and who you want to bet on, playing DFS, doing your OAD pools, whatever you're working on. And then, of course, Thursday through Sunday is a sweat. And then there's always another event the next week. And so you're just going right back at it every single time. And so it makes it sort of, for me, it's a full-time job. For a lot of other people out there, it's a part-time, full-time job. I mean, it really can be when you're trying to work on things for every single week and going back and forth on everything. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm sitting here watching my Lightning play right now, and you can bet on a hockey game, and you'll get a good sweat for 2.5 hours, and you'll be able to watch the game, and you'll be a winner or a loser pretty quickly. But if you're betting on an outright, a top 20, whatever it might be, a top 40, a matchup bet in golf, as you know, Chris, you're going to be sweating that thing for the entire week, which is it's pretty fun to be able to have that kind of 4-day sweat like you don't get in other sports.
Absolutely. And also, he's also on PGA Tour Live. I've watched him in the mornings when he's always bringing up his best bets as well, which has been a lot of fun. He's been, honestly, he's been really good with them for the most part, especially with his top 30s, 40s, everything else, real solid. So we're going to get some good insight in the golf betting world here for the most part. But I want to get into the Charles Schwab that happened here. It seemed like Jordan Spieth was going to run away with this thing. He's in Texas. He's so good there. He's been one of the best ball strikers on tour. And Kokrak finally closed it out, his second win of the year, which is really impressive. I actually forgot that he won a tournament already this year. So pretty amazing by Kokrak, known for his great putting and off the tee, but his approach game was excellent as well.
Yeah, so I'll start with Kokrak. He's a guy that I thought, Chris, 3-4 years ago was ready to bust out and be maybe not a star, but I've always compared him to a Gary Woodland type of player. Hits it a long way, but has good touch around the greens. And so if the putter ever warms up, he's going to be a really good player. Apparently, it was taking 10, 12 years for that putter to really warm up. He's gone from 160th, something like that, in strokes gained putting to 6th this season. That's a huge difference for a guy who's already a long hitter and a really good ball striker. To be able to putt like this is obviously what's making the difference for him right now. And he's knocking on the door for some really big things coming up, possibly U.S. Ryder Cup team. I can see him contending for a couple of majors over the next few years. The guy's got a great attitude towards the game. I mean, look, at Colonial, the entire fan base there, the entire gallery was rooting on the hometown hero, Jordan Spieth. And for him to just basically say, screw it, I don't care, I'm just going to go out and play and try to beat him. That's the kind of attitude you like to see, and that's the kind of thing that works well on a Sunday afternoon. So don't be surprised to see Kokrak. I'm not saying that he's going to peel off a few more wins this season, but moving on down the line, a Gary Woodland type career is, I think, a nice ceiling for Kokrak. As far as Spieth, yeah, some Sunday struggles there still. There's still some scar tissue building up for Jordan Spieth when he gets into contention, when he has the lead after 54 holes. Hasn't been great. Obviously won in San Antonio at the Valero, but other than that, he's had his struggles so far this year. But still, it's all good things. Remember where Jordan was 3, 4, 5 months ago, and it was nowhere close to this. So just the fact that Jordan's getting into contention, he's in the heat of the battle, it's still very good things for Jordan Spieth. And I think it's going to be even better for him moving forward. He told me, Chris, about a month ago, he said, look, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to the point where I think I can get to, but if I do get there, watch out. It's going to be really good. And he told me even a month ago when he was playing really well, I'm not quite where I want my game to be, and I'm not sure I'm going to get there. But again, if he gets there at some point, Jordan's going to go on a pretty good tear.
Yeah, you know what the surprising number from was this weekend? Actually, Kokrak shot almost 5 strokes better than him on the approach. We know that Jordan Spieth sprays the ball everywhere off the tee. Like, he's never accurate. He's always scrambling constantly, it seems like. So I wasn't surprised that Kokrak was so much better than him off the tee. But when I looked at it, his approach shots was just so much better than Spieth. And that's been a real strong suit for him.
Spieth had nothing on Sunday. You could tell from that opening tee shot. He was struggling with everything, never looked comfortable, never had his swing. Everything was going wrong for him. It's actually kind of a testament to Jordan's game that he did at least kind of stay in there until the last hole or two and didn't completely fall down the leaderboard because he didn't have it. He admitted so afterwards. And look, it's okay. Sometimes, you get into it and you play 3 rounds of solid golf and you get to the final round. It's just not there for you. And my guess is that Jordan would rather have that happen at Colonial than at the U.S. Open in a few weeks or at the Open Championship next month or at a bigger event somewhere down the road.
Yeah, especially at the especially at the Open Championship, his last major that he won, I believe. But now we're going to get into Murfield Village. The Memorial, very tough tournament. Had a lot of different views with it, with the Workday charity playing much easier, and then they let it kind of unleash with the Memorial, where the rough was as high as I am for the most part, where it was almost impossible to hit. But they had a lot of changes with this course. They rebuilt the fairways, the greenside bunkers. They added 140 trees. I don't know how that's going to really play too much into the course as far as that goes for driving accuracy. What are your thoughts with that?
Yeah, so going through everything, and we did a little breakdown on the radio show earlier today, but it seems like in places it's, hey, these guys are like on 17, these guys are taking a line that we really don't want them taking off the tee. Let's narrow it. Let's make it a little harder for them to take that line if they want to just take driver and rip driver off the tee. And so in some spots, it's going to be much harder for some of these guys, especially the guys who like to play some aggressive golf. But a lot of these spots, they've made the course actually more playable. And Jack has talked about, hey, it's not just about the 1 week that the PGA Tour players are here. This is about the other 51 weeks out of the year when the membership is here, and we want it more playable for the membership. And so I'm excited to see how it's going to play. I think scoring is going to be closer to what we saw for the Workday last year than what we saw for the Memorial. I mean, they had bulldozers on the golf course as the leaders were finishing up on Sunday afternoon, which was ridiculous last year. And so you can understand why they just basically let it get as crispy as they possibly could, as fast and firm and rock hard as they could last year, because they were going to blow it up. I mean, literally immediately after that final putt drop. So I would expect scoring to be back somewhere in the 12 to 14, maybe 15 under neighborhood this week. I haven't seen the over-under for total winning score yet, but my guess is it's probably right in that neighborhood. That's probably right about where it'll be too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there. I think the scoring is going to be a little bit better here. I just think the crop of golfers in general are just playing out of their mind, especially the young guys like the Zalatoris of the world, the Victor Hovlands that can just run birdie after birdie. Ostasian's been playing pretty solid, and Joaquin can run up birdies as well. These guys are just playing unbelievable. I can't remember a better time where a group of golfers, just the entire field in general, has just been so good.
See, you say that, Chris. I've actually been saying over the last 3 to 4 weeks that I feel like it's going in the other direction right now. That's not to say that the guys out there aren't really good, but I feel like before the Players Championship, let's say 2.5 months ago,
Oh, okay.
that's how I felt. I felt like, wow, the game's in great shape right now, and all these great players are playing really well. They're all in form. Right now, I feel like you can't point to a top player in the world right now and say, hey, his game is exactly where it needs to be. You look at Dustin Johnson, who's not playing this week. He's been pretty poor lately. Missed the cut at the PGA Championship a few weeks ago. You look at Justin Thomas, outside the top 10, 6 straight starts, first time since early 2019 that he's done that. Jon Rahm, the favorite this week. Jon Rahm hasn't closed out a tournament this year, hasn't even really come close to a serious title contention. I feel like this week, basically Rahm is the favorite because he won last year, and I don't know, we needed somebody. If you're an odds maker, you're sitting there looking at it, and you're like, it can't be him. It's not really him. It's not really that guy. All right, I guess I'll make it Rahm. And so I think it's a very kind of strange odds board this week with Rahm at the top, and then it looks like basically the odds makers, and it is a little bit different depending on where you look this week. You guys shop around because I think there are some very different pricing at the different sports books. But for the most part, they basically said, I don't know, Rahm won here last year, so we'll make him the favorite. And right after him, we'll basically just go with some sort of combination of JT and Rory and Spieth and Bryson and Cantlay and all the other guys. So Morikawa, of course. So it doesn't feel like one of them, is jumping out from the other guys. So yes, all great players, and obviously this is all fluid and flexible. And 3 weeks from now, we can sit here and say, man, all the great players in the world are playing really well. They're all in great form. Can't wait for the rest of the year. But right now, I can't point to a guy who is playing flawless golf, who I look to and I say, that guy, no doubt about it, he's going to be on the leaderboard come Sunday afternoon this week.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm looking at the odds right now. I tweeted it out earlier today. Victor Hovland's the second on odds-on favorite to win. Yeah, talk about a big movement with a guy that has been playing so well. You got Hovland, JT at 15-1, then you got Rory 16.5, Morikawa 16.5, Xander Schauffele, who hasn't really won anything, he's at 16.5.
Right.
And you got like Spieth at 16.5, and then of all people, Patrick Cantlay at 17-1. So it's like you got a big just cluster that's thrown in there. And I think you're right with that. The books just aren't sure who's going to win this tournament.
So Chris, I'll peel back the curtain for you a little bit for what I did this week. And usually I will spend Sunday afternoon watching the final round of that week's event and basically starting to make notes and starting to kind of plug guys into places where I'm going to put them in my betting guide for the coming week. And then Monday morning, I'll see the odds come out and I'll kind of base things on what the odds look like, and then I'll kind of file my piece and move on from there. And I have to get it all done by Monday morning because it's like an avalanche. Then I've got to do a video for the PGA Tour, and then I've got to do the radio show, and then I've got to do something else, and everything has to stay consistent. So I can't pick one guy for an outright on Monday morning, and then a different guy Monday afternoon, and a different guy Tuesday morning, which actually sounds like a pretty good idea, but in good conscience, I can't do that. Well, this week being Memorial Day weekend and Memorial Day on Monday, I was playing a little golf tournament. And so I said, okay, I'm going to get everything done on Sunday evening. I'm going to get all my work out of the way so I can have the day on Monday, just relax and have it be a holiday. And so I put Victor Hovland down as my favorite outright play, Chris, thinking that he's going to be as usual, 8th to 10th on the odds board. I figured about 22, 23 to 1, somewhere in there. Yeah. And as you mentioned, in some books, he is second on the board at 15 to 1. And I'm sitting there going, come on, man. I made my pick on Sunday night based on what I thought the odds would be because I didn't have the odds yet. And then they come out and it's like, looks like I'm just playing the favorites. But I do like Hovland a lot this week.
Yeah, I mean, what can't you not like about him? He's one of the best ball strikers on tour. He's really accurate off the tee and goes pretty long as well. And his around the green game has improved a lot, which a lot of people do trash at times. But you know what? It's gotten a lot better. And just another guy that I was looking at the PGA Championship that shouldn't have been there, Ricky Fowler. He had a great showing. Do you think this is like a flash in the pan, or do you think this is something he can really build off of?
I spent more time speaking with Ricky at the PGA Championship than probably any other player. Ricky's great. I've known him for a long time, and I was doing post-round interviews for SiriusXM's PGA Championship Radio for the live broadcast that week. And Ricky would come over, we'd do a 2-minute interview, and afterwards, most of the guys, we kind of exchange pleasantries. Okay, I'll talk to you later. See you tomorrow. Good luck, whatever. And they walk away. And Ricky just kind of hung out. And so we sat there and talked. And some of the stuff we talked about had nothing to do with golf. Some of the stuff was, golf related, but not anything major. But we also talked about where his game is going. And I said, Ricky, I like where your game's going. I've kind of got you targeted. I told him this. I said, I've got you targeted for the Open Championship. Windy, links golf course, played well at Royal St. George's last time the Open Championship was held there. And he said, yeah. And then he kind of paused. He's like, but it's going to get there before then. This was on Thursday or Friday. I believe Friday, because he played better that day.
Mm-hmm.
Had a good second round to make the cut, and I had interviewed him then. And he kind of, and it wasn't like I don't think he took offense to it, but it was like, yeah, I do think I'll be peaking then, but I'm going to be peaking before then as well. And then, of course, 2 days later, he was really mad at himself when he bogeyed that final hole. He said he hit a knuckleball with his second shot and wound up making bogey, or else he'd be in the Masters for next year already. Wound up finishing T9 at the PGA, and he kind of, I said to him, look, you were right. I didn't see it coming this quickly, but it looks pretty good right now. He goes, yeah. He said, when your putter can bail you out, which it has for me a lot during my career, when you have confidence that you're going to make some putts, then you have confidence to hit those shots, and everything's kind of connected. And so, yes, long story short, I really do like Ricky Fowler a lot moving forward. Doesn't mean that he's all of a sudden going to start winning golf tournaments right away. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a straight line going up the entire time. At some point, it's going to be back and forth a little bit. He's going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But I am very optimistic and bullish about Ricky Fowler moving forward.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You're talking about the Open Championship. You felt that could be a good spot for him. And your guy, Victor Hovland, that you like this week, I want to say less than a year ago, I pretty much picked him for every major, for every future. And I'm finally at the Open Championship, and I have him at 80-1 right now. I have a ticket for 80-1 right now, and I currently looked at his odds at 22-1. So that's kind of the horse I'm going to be riding. I was like almost not rooting for him for the PGA Championship, because I feel like if he would have won that, maybe he could not possibly won another major on top of that. So I feel like it was good experience to get there. He's happy-go-lucky. He brushes off every shot like it's not a big deal. He had that one tournament where he went back and forth around the green like 20 times, and then he ended up running up the score again. So he's a guy that definitely forgets those bad shots. He continues to play well, and he's kind of the horse I'm riding for that.
Yeah, and I think if there's one thing that Victor needs in his game right now, like you mentioned, I believe that was at the concession a couple of months ago, that WGC, where he was flawless. What was he? He was like 8 or 9 under, and then made a quadruple bogey on his final hole in the second round that day. And so you look at what Victor has done. Yeah, very good player. I'm still waiting for that stepping stone, that building block win. And I believe this is a tournament this week where that can happen. So we saw it in 2018. Bryson DeChambeau was a good player, a good young player. We knew he was sort of destined for bigger things. He took that step with a win at the Memorial. The next year, Patrick Cantlay, same story. Last year, I don't know if John Rahm necessarily fits the narrative, but Colin Morikawa certainly does. And he won on this golf course at the Workday the week before, and a few months later added a PGA Championship to his profile. So I do think that there's something about this golf course, especially with all the changes, and I don't think experience is going to matter as much as it has in the past on this course. And so I think Victor Hovland certainly fits that narrative. And one other guy, Joaquin Niemann, if we want to start talking about other players, but he's another guy that he's going to be a star in this game for a long time to come. Still needs kind of that building block victory to get from one step to the next, and this could be the week for that too.
Yeah, he had that. I believe that the tournament in Hawaii against. He ended up going against Harris English right in the playoff, and he was chumming it up with Sergio and the wives and everything at the lunch table. Just no problem. I don't need to warm up or anything. We're just laughing, having a good time with Sergio. So
when you're that flexible, you don't have to warm up at all. Yeah, he finished second place, runner up at both the Century at Kapalua, and then again at the Sony Open the next week. Hasn't seriously contended since then, but he's played some very solid golf. Hasn't missed the cut at all. So he's got a very high floor, and I think he's got a high ceiling as well this week.
Yeah, I can definitely say I've never been that flexible in my entire life, but he definitely grips it and rips it for sure. But there was another guy I was looking at, a guy that's just been, hanging around. He's never won any big tournaments. And I was like, this seems like a really good course for him, but all his numbers just aren't that great. It's like the same thing you said with Victor Hovland being 15-1. Like the odds just aren't that great for him. Tony Finau, I feel like this would be a very good fit for him. But I even looked at like top 10. He's like plus 188 I'm looking at. And I just feel like that's too risky of a play. I was curious to see what the matchup market was because I felt like I could really take an advantage of him in the matchup market. And I really didn't even see him in a good matchup market. How do you feel how Tony's going to play this week?
I like Tony a lot. I am a Tony Finau sympathizer. I still think, much like Jason Kokrak, I've been saying for years, hey, Jason Kokrak's really good. He's going to start winning golf tournaments. Of course, I didn't pick him the two places that he's won, the Zozo and of course, Colonial this past week. But I kind of felt that it was coming for Kokrak. It's coming. Tony Finau's too good. Like he's not ending his career with one victory at the Puerto Rico Open and that's it. He's going to win things. He's got 4 finishes of 13th or better in 6 career starts at the Memorial. So shows good form at this golf course. He's been playing decent golf, nothing great, but maybe this is the kind of time where I think Tony can, maybe when we least expect it out of him, he can step up and win something like this. So same type of thing, a building block kind of win for a guy that we know is better than his profile has shown so far. And, that said, I talked about Hovland and Neiman both having high ceilings this week. When I look at Finau, I say he's got the high floor. I mean, I don't think he's going to completely fall off the map this week and just not play well, although he has had a few missed cuts in the last month or so. But I do think the ceiling is probably a little bit lower just because you're looking at a guy that's got one career win in an alternate field event more than 5 years ago. I mean, at some point, you just have to lower the guy's ceiling and lower that bar of expectations a little bit too.
Yeah, his around the green game's been fantastic, and I think that's going to really come into play at this course, along with strokes gain approach, driving accuracy. If you can have some distance with it as well, I think that's important. But we got a question here from Mitch Flat. He says, "Which outright that you do not like for betting do you like most for DFS?"
Oh, that's a good question. I've got my DFS plays sitting right here. Let's see. For that top tier, I'll give you this one. Former winner at the Memorial. I just don't know that he's ready to win so quickly after winning a big one just a month and a half ago. But Hideki Matsuyama is a guy that plays well on this golf course. I know you want to get into our first round leader plays at some point, Chris.
Yep.
He's my favorite FRL bet this week. He's every 3 years like clockwork. He was co-FRL in 15, co-FRL in 18 at this golf tournament. I like him this week. I wouldn't bet Hideki outright. I just feel like it's too much too soon right after the Masters. But if you're looking to play him in DFS, maybe the ownership, with so many guys up there near the top, at some point that ownership is gonna split off a little bit. And a few of these guys aren't going to be really highly owned. I'm not great at picking ownership percentages. I know you can look up projections online somewhere and figure out those things. I would say Hideki's probably a 10 to 12% kind of guy. So I think there's a lot of value there in looking at him this week. And I would think a top 10 is a nice finish for Hideki this week.
Yeah, that's funny that you said that. I actually did hit his first round leader. I forget which tournament it was, but he hit like a 30-foot putt or something crazy. This was even when his putting was even worse. He pretty much had to hit par for it to just tie, but he hit the outright with like a 30-foot putt. That was probably, I saw it on the tracker on PGAtour.com. I didn't see it live, unfortunately, because I would have lost my mind. But he hit that putt, and I was like, wow, he actually made a putt. I was just like, please make a 2-putt and just do that, and it would be fine. But we talked about Tony Finau. I don't think he's going to be really owned as much this go around. I think people have the narrative that he can't really win, and with all these other big names, I think he could be a good play as well. And I think Cantlay's burned a lot of guys, so I think Cantlay might be a guy as well that might be good in the DFS market. Oh, and FYI, anyway, Mitch is a big supporter of the show and all the work I do. He absolutely crushed it in DFS last week. So he played one lineup, and he played them in $33 worth of tournaments. He won over $60K. Oof. Absolutely outrageous. Only one lineup. He didn't spray like a bunch of lineups and get lucky with a couple. He literally played one lineup and just went down the board on like a $33 buy-in and this and that. And he hit like first on all of them. I never seen anything like it in my entire life. So kudos to Mitch. He did absolutely amazing on it, and I had to bring it up.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. One name I want to bring up that you mentioned there, Chris, Patrick Cantlay, is a guy that I wasn't necessarily looking at this week too much. He missed 3 cuts in a row, finished 23rd at the PGA Championship. The ball striking numbers were improved. They weren't great. His putting wasn't very good. He did, of course, as I mentioned earlier, win this golf tournament 2 years ago. Sometimes, though, Chris, in this business, it pays to listen instead of just talk. And I think that from everything I've read, I've barely clicked on an article, barely watched another video, listened to a podcast without somebody saying, I love Cantlay this week. And so, look, sometimes when everyone's saying, hey, there's this guy, and you're not necessarily on him, I mean, maybe it's nice to fade him against everybody else, but sometimes everybody else is right too. So I have no problem shutting up and listening to everybody else once in a while as well. And I was not on Cantlay myself, but I may have gotten talked into it by just listening to others this week.
Yeah, I think he's an interesting kind of play. I've been fading him a lot as far as the East Coast swing is gone. So he hasn't been too good. He's been cut from like plenty of events for the most part. But this last event he played over at the PGA Championship, his ball striking was amazing. He was great off the tee. His around the green game was okay, but everyone talking about how bad his putter's been. His putter's been like historically bad recently, and I feel like it can't be any worse at this point. So I'm actually kind of bullish on him this week for once, because I think this is a good fit for him for this kind of course. And I think he's trending in the right direction because you got the U.S. Open coming up. That's at Torrey Pines. That's out the West Coast where he feels more comfortable playing. And I think he's trending in that right direction. And his odds, I think, kind of show that he could do really well here. I think 17-1 is very low for him.
It is, and I certainly wouldn't chase that. But if you want to put him in some DFS lineups, I don't mind it. The one thing I will say about Cantlay is that very few players are as solely focused on their golf game as he is. So I can guarantee that over the past 2 weeks, he has been at home, probably at the practice green at Shady Canyons outside of LA and Southern California, working on his putter and trying to figure out how he can roll it a little bit better for Muirfield Village this week.
Well, without further ado, let's get into these bets here. I want to get right into it. Leader after first round, my favorite bet on all of golf, pretty much. It's the lottery ticket that pretty much covers you for the entire week. You can spread. You can once you win that money, you're pretty much free rolling at that point. I feel like even if you're betting very little, like I'll bet probably a quarter bet on it. Not a full bet, but like a quarter bet. Spray it around 3-4 golfers that I really like. And it pretty much covers my bets for the whole round, and I can use it for live betting as well. So it's used in that way as well. The 4 guys that I'm looking at, Brandon Steele, 125-1, which I saw your flag right behind you for the BMW Championship over there. Very nice. I think that's an omen. Yeah, I think that's an omen over, so I can really like that.
Yeah, I caddied for him, what was it, 3 years ago, the BMW. So. Oh,
awesome. Was that the one over in Pennsylvania? Or
yeah, that was at Aronimink. There was a Sunday was washed out. He was going to play, have a Monday finish. His caddy had a flight home, hadn't been home in about 2 months, and I'm good friends with Steely anyway, and I was hanging out with them at scoring, and he told the caddy, Christian Donald, he said, look, you go home, I'll figure it out. It was lame duck season. They weren't moving on to the next round of the playoffs anyway, so we had one more round to finish out the string, and I'd happen to be standing there. He goes, Sobel, you want the bag? And I go, yeah, sure, I'll carry a bag on a Monday afternoon. Why not? And we were in the same group with Phil and Brian Harmon, and that was a treat. That was a really fun day we had.
And believe it or not, I was actually there on Monday. Believe it or not,
nice.
I'm over in the Philadelphia area. I live in South Jersey. I went there with my father-in-law. It was supposed to be Sunday. It got rained out, of course. So Monday was completely empty. You could literally go to any grandstand you want. I remember I was at one of the grandstands near one of the holes, and I saw Bryson putt, and he missed the putt, and I just heard him like cursing his head off left and right and everything. I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy's losing it over here. But it was pretty awesome. It was probably the closest I've ever been to the golfers besides when I was in Tucson. I went to University of Arizona, and they used to have the Dell matchup over there. They used to have the March Madness.
Dove Mountain snowed one year in Tucson.
Oh,
that was fun. We had a snowball fight with some players.
That's pretty wild.
Ridiculous.
So Brandon Steele, I really like him here. He's ranked 3rd in the field strokes gained total for Muirfield Village since 2018. He's one of the best strokes gained approach has the best stroke gained approach numbers at Muirfield, which will play a big factor. He's had a 13th and a 20th here, and that would have never happened without a really strong first round. He's a pretty solid golfer. He's in all positives with strokes gained categories. And he just shows, he says, well-rounded golf game, and approach shot is one of his best attributes, which is going to be really important here at 125-1. I really like that.
All
Also,
right, so let me give you
I'll
some
let you get
intel.
into that.
Let's see what I have from Steely today. I asked him, I believe the first text message we had of the day, I asked him, how's Ohio? He said, just got here last night. This is at 8 o'clock this morning. He said, there's cicadas everywhere. So that's the intel I can give you from Steely today. I really didn't talk to him about how his game's going or anything like that. What I can tell you, though, is he finished 77th and 70th in his last 2 starts, had some things going on before each of those. So I wouldn't take too much stock in either of those. I think he's going to play better this week.
Yeah, I feel like he's played well here before, and I think for a first-round leader, he's shown in the past that he has scored well in first rounds, so I'm kind of riding that as well. Now, in 125-1 is real good there. Keegan Bradley, 50-1. He's second in the field in 2021 with strokes gained total for first-round play. His most recent play, he has been fantastic around the green, and his approach game's been awesome. 2 huge categories for this event. He's been absolutely locked in, finishing no worse than 18th in his last 4 events. This course favors ball strikers, and his putter has shown up in the first round 7 out of 9 times being positive. I really like him here.
Fire away on Keegan. I got his name written down here. I got 3 names for FRL. He's one of them. I hit with him at the Valspar a couple of weeks ago, I guess about a month or 2 ago. And I sent it to, I wasn't going to send to him. I'm not sending a player that, hey, you won me money. I'm just not doing that. But I did tell Steely. Steely wasn't playing that week, and Steely's best friends with Keegan. And it got back to Keegan. Keegan, I've had a laugh about it. And long story short, I owe Keegan a couple of beers because he won me some money as the first-round leader at the Valspar.
Oh, beautiful. I love it. Another guy that I like also at 101, Lucas Glover. He's second in the field in strokes gained total in Murfield Village since 2018 for first-round play. He has a 65% scrambling rating. He's 6 out of the last 10 first rounds have been positive for strokes gained approach. Kind of a long shot, but Glover has also scored well in first rounds as well.
What I'll tell you, Chris, that Glover played well last week, just got into the field. It was either late Monday or early Tuesday as an alternate. I believe he got in when Kevin Na withdrew. On a golf course that's seen a lot of changes this year for the first time, I want guys that have seen as much of the course as possible. And so if he's limited in his preparation this week, I don't know that he necessarily gets off to a fast start because of that. So I'm going to stay away from Glover, at least for FRLs.
All right, fair enough. And finally, Corey Connors, 40-1. He's ranked 4th in 2020 season with strokes gained total for first-round play. He's been excellent with the approach shots. I cashed with him in a first-round leader before. I believe it was at 80-1. That was pretty awesome. He's capable of scoring low in the first round. His strokes gained off the tee hasn't been his best category, but he ranks 10th in fairway hit percentage his last 24 rounds. Strokes gained off the tee tends to favor distance more. He has shown he has been good with distance, and he ranks 4th in GIRs in the last 24 rounds, and he's 7th in scrambling in 24 rounds. So those are kind of things I think that will help him this first round.
Yeah, Nicklaus courses are usually second shot golf courses. They give you some width off the tee to spray it just a little bit, but you've got to be on it with your iron game. And Corey Connors is one of the best iron players in the world, so I have no problem with that. I've got 3 names written down for FRL this week. 3 guys that I've mentioned already. One's Keegan. We went over him already. 2 others that have also cashed FRLs already, if not this year, I believe this year, but at least this season since they started back up in September. But Joaquin Neiman, who I like overall this week, but I really like him in first rounds. He was leading the PGA Tour in first round scoring average. I believe he's gotten passed since then, but he should still be at least in the top 3 or 4 last I checked. And the other guy is Hideki Matsuyama. I mentioned him as well. He's got a really nice history at Muirfield Village, and he's been co-FRL a few times in the past.
Nice, very nice. We'll see. I might have to double up on that Keegan Bradley now since we both are the signs are showing that way. So I might throw a little extra on Keegan now that
I like it.
The stars are aligning over here. So were there any top 30s or 40s that you were looking at that were really catching your eye?
Yeah, so I mean, if we want to go further down the board, I've got, and really I had these names written down for DFS purposes. I've sort of got the field broken down into 5 different tiers here. So if I want to look at tier 4 and tier 5, guys that would probably fit those bets as well. Tier 4 guys that I like, Matthew Wallace, I think, is a smash play this week. He was fourth at this tournament last year, and I think it suits his game really well. He's in good form. Doug Gim is a guy who Justin Ray mentioned on the Action Network podcast with me when we were taping last night, that Gim is one of 4 players in the field this week who is top 40 in both strokes gained, approach shots, and in scrambling. Scrambling is going to be a big one this week. So I like the Gim Reaper there, as they call him. Aaron Wise starting to fulfill his potential a little bit. Aaron Wise is going to be a really good player. You're going to be betting on him a lot over the next few years, so get used to that. He's criminally undervalued for DFS this week. And I like Luke List as well. Luke List is another kind of like Kokrak, like later in his career. I couldn't believe it. I looked it up. Luke List is 36 years old already. I would have guessed he was 29 still, but shows how long I've been out here. But I still think that the late part of his career could be a better part. When I go down to this tier 5, Chris, 4 names for you. And, again, these are top 30, top 40 type bets. I'm not going to go nuts with any of them. But the first one, Victor Perez is a world-class golfer, and he is, again, undervalued in the marketplace. Missed the cut at both the Masters and the PGA. But before that, the players in the match play played really well.
Yeah,
watched him on the range. Yeah, watched him on the range at Kiowa, and there were other players like just watching him hit iron shots. That does not happen very often, that other players just watching one guy hit balls. So Perez is a guy that I think has gotten some attention from his peers. Jason Duffner's a guy I'm keeping an eye on. I'm not all in on Duffner yet, but I'm keeping an eye on him. Bo Hogue is a guy that knows the Nicholas family really well, gets an exemption into this event every year. He's a Columbus native, and so he's going to have a lot of support from the fans out there this week. And then my absolute smash play for DFS this week, and let's keep this amongst ourselves.
All right, we'll keep it.
For those watching right now, me, you, Chris, and everyone watching. For whatever reason, Kyle Stanley with 3 career top 6 finishes at Memorial and a T8 last week at the Colonial is 6,100 on DraftKings. Okay. Thanks. Like free bingo square right there. We'll take it though. And you can load up on some higher price guys if you put Kyle Stanley in the lineup.
Absolutely. It'll be the Vance Whaley this go around. He's a guy that's been tearing it up with the low salary as well. Guys I've been looking at for like top 30 for the most part. Gary Woodland, I think he's been trending in the right direction. You could be able to get him at plus 120. I think that's a good spot for him as well. I'm looking as well. Cameron Tringale, he's been actually rating really well in a lot of my models as well around the green approach. He's plus 163. They're not big payouts, but I think there's safe plays where you can win 1.5 to your money to at least cover a bet or so. And those are kind of the guys I'm kind of looking at for the top 30 over there.
And I don't mind that. Look, one of the things I say all the time, Chris, say on the radio show, say it on our podcast, figure out what type of bettor you are. And look, for me, I'm playing a few more outrights. I'm playing some first round leaders. I'm doing a lot of DFS. I'll play some other stuff here. But, I'm not necessarily like, hey, I need to turn a profit this week. But there's some – look, if you want to play a plus 120 play to finish top 30 for the week, that's how you make money doing this. And that's how you turn a profit. And so if your bottom line is, hey, look, I don't necessarily care as much about the sweat and as much about having the lottery ticket as I do about, hey, I just want money in my pocket. I want to keep building that account little by little. And so that's a great way of doing it, picking guys who are good players, who are consistent players, and Woodland's guy that I like this week a lot as well. Picking those type of guys for top 20s, top 30s, even top 40s, I don't have a problem with it. That's the way that you're going to win over the long haul.
Yeah, so, and as far as the top 20, I have 2 guys that I like. We talked about them before. Keegan Bradley, 1.5 to 1. His ball striking has just been unreal. And his around the green game has been real good. It's like the best recipe for this course. He's had an 8th here and a 23rd. And most importantly, he's been inside the top 20 his last 4 starts. Pretty amazing.
Okay, so going back to the Steele-Bradley relationship, they played together at the Zurich Classic, and this was actually the week before the Valspar. This is why I got on Keegan for that with Steele afterwards. And he told me, like, look, he's played 1 million rounds with Keegan. He's hitting it as good as ever, but he's putting better than he ever has before. For those people that bet on Keegan regularly, that play DFS with him, you know that putter can be the source of a lot of frustration. Well, he is putting it much better, really, than he ever has. Maybe at least since the anchored putting rule went into effect. And so when Keegan's hitting the ball the way he is right now, I believe he's 6th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained tee to green. And when he's putting it well, I mean, that's kind of the formula we were talking about with Jason Kokrak off the top of the show. But I like Keegan a lot right now based on all of that.
And another guy I like as well that's a little bit higher in odds, Stuart Sink. He's been playing incredible late at plus 225. He's ranked 3rd at strokes gained approach since the last 24 rounds based on Data Golf. He has a 70% scrambling rate, ranked 4th in the field in the last 24 rounds, about a 70% GIR percentage, and he drives the ball 311 average, which he's been juicing that off the driver.
Yeah, I don't mind it. He's hitting the ball further than he's ever had before.
Crazy.
I mean, he's picked up a lot of distance. I feel like at some point the Sink train is going to come to a bit of a halt. It doesn't mean that he's going to stop playing solid golf, but he's 47 years old. He's played a lot of really good golf so far. I just don't know that continues for the rest of the year. Doesn't mean he's not a good play this week. 2 more guys sort of in that neighborhood that I haven't mentioned yet. Shane Lowry. What's the one thing that we always say about Shane Lowry?
Yeah.
Shane Lowry's got some of the best hands in golf. When he's around the green and the ball's sitting down some rough, there are very few players that I want hitting a chip from just off the green, a little pitch shot than Shane Lowry. And so he's won before at Firestone. You're never going to find a better comp course for another PGA Tour venue than Firestone, which is out of the rotation now, but Firestone to Muirfield Village. So I think that works. And then Charles Schwartzel is a guy that I've spoken with a lot over the past month or two, and his game is really rounding into form. He said, there are a handful of weeks in there where, he'd come home on a Friday evening. His wife said, what happened? You didn't play well? He goes, no, I played really well. And she's like, well, why are you home on Friday evening then? He goes, it's a good question. I'm not sure, but I'm playing well. Trust me, it's getting there. And now it is. You've seen the fruits of his labor. You've seen Charles Schwartzel starting to play better right now. He's very optimistic with the way things are going for him. So I think moving forward, Schwartzel's a nice play. And he's a guy that I've watched him play a lot at this golf course, and I've always thought that his game suits this golf course really well.
Yeah, he's a guy, Charles Schwartzel. I've actually had some good success with him in the live betting market with like round matchup plays. I feel like I've been able to find really good spots with him. That's funny you brought him up. Shane Lowry, I absolutely love him in DFS. He's like an automatic play for me in DFS. He's right in that wheelhouse. I believe he's in like in the 8K range. He's one of my favorite DFS plays. I was looking at him for top 20. I didn't pull the trigger on him, but I do really like him to play well here. And a couple top 10s that I was looking at. Matsuyama, I like at 2.5 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
I really like his around the green game. His approach game's been great, and his putter has actually been much better than it has been in the past. He's just a guy I feel that he just plays really well at these kind of courses where the approach shot matters. And the last time he played here, he had a 6th and a 13th. Besides the last cut. Well, he had a cut last year, but the 2 years before that, he had a 6th and a 13th. So he has proven that he can play at this course.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put too much stock in last year at the Memorial Tournament. Remember, it was playing like a U.S. Open last year. They were going to tear up the golf course that night, literally. And so, I just don't put too much stock in results from last year. I would go back and look over time, how guys have done over the years instead. By the way, one name that we haven't mentioned that's the most intriguing name to me this week, Chris, and I don't know where to go. I'm on the fence with it. He's going to either win some people a lot of money or lose some people a lot of money this week, but Charlie Hoffman's playing the best golf of his career. His ball striking's been fantastic, just finished in a share of 3rd place this past weekend at Colonial. It is all systems go for Charlie Hoffman as far as form. At Muirfield Village, he's played 11 times. He hasn't even come close. He hasn't sniffed a thing here. He finished in T19, I believe, 7 years ago. And other than that, doesn't have a single top 30 finish. Something about this golf course did not suit his eye. So something's got to give for Charlie Hoffman this week. And I don't know which one it is. I don't know if it's just, hey, I'm playing so well that it doesn't matter where I play. I'm going to be on the leaderboard. Or it's, man, I was playing so well, and then I got to the place that I just can't figure out, and all of a sudden it's going to come crashing down this week because Muirfield Village is a place that he just never plays well at throughout his career. So I'm intrigued by Charlie Hoffman. I don't know which way to go. I've heard from both angles of this. Hey, is he informed? Don't worry about it. Or no, I'd worry. He doesn't know how to play this golf course. I'm leaning towards the latter. I probably won't have too much investment in Charlie this week, but again, it scares me a little bit because he is playing really well.
Yeah, it's funny that you brought him up. Last week, I proclaimed it Charlie Hoffman week. I had him for win, play, show, pretty much for the most part. He got me a show in place, but he didn't get me the wins. But he was still profitable for me. I was really bullish on him last week. I almost feel like this is the guy that's going to burn everybody this week. I just think people are just seeing how well he's played of late. And I kind of look at the board, I'm like, which guy at the top is going to burn everybody this week, whether it's DFS or the betting market? And I just feel like it is going to be Charlie Hoffman. I was big on him last week, but I just have a weird gut feeling that I know his approach numbers have been great, but you also brought up he has been great here as well. But I think people are going to look past that and they're going to hammer him constantly. And I think the books will win with him.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Again, he scares me because if you're fading him this week, there's potential that he just keeps on rolling, keeps playing the way he's playing. But again, that history, there's something about the golf course that doesn't suit Charlie Hoffman's eye. It doesn't matter if they bulldoze the whole thing and redo the greens. It's just not been working for him. It's been a pretty large sample size. We're not talking about 2 or 3 times that he's played this golf tournament. We're talking about 11 career starts at this event.
Yeah, and another guy I was looking at for top 10, Kevin Streelman, 3.5 to 1. You get a little bit longer odds with him there.
Yeah.
He had strong showings at the Workday Charity Open, which was held at Murfield. I know it was a lot easier playing, but you know what? I feel like you said before, you're going to see kind of that scoring here, and maybe not as high, but around that ballpark for the most part. His accuracy is the strongest points off the tee, which I think is going to be important.
I don't have it in front of me. I'd like to, before I bet Kevin Streelman, I want to go back and see how he plays in week 3 of a 3-week stretch, because remember, he was in contention at the PGA Championship, a lot of physical and mental energy burned at Kiowa, finishing in, I believe, a share of 4th place. He was kind of in contention. I mean, not serious contention last week. There were really only 2 guys in serious contention at Colonial, but still another top 10 finish for Streelman last week, playing really well. But before you put any money on him, and again, I don't have it in front of me right now, but go check out how he does in this week 3 of a 3-week stretch, because I have a feeling he's 42 years old, and he's getting on there a little bit. Kevin Streelman's one of my generation guys, and I love Streels. When he gets hot, he gets really hot. And he's probably trying to step on the gas pedal a little bit this week, knowing that he is playing well. But at some point, fatigue's got to set in. And I don't know if it's this week or it's just, hey, I can get through this week and then take a rest before the U.S. Open. But at some point, it comes crashing down a little bit for him.
Okay, that's funny that you brought that up. I'm actually looking at that right now. So take it for what it is. The Dell Technology is a match play. So it's not necessarily a stroke play, but he technically finished 9th there. The Honda Classic before then, he finished 36th, 33rd. He ended up getting cut in both the Valspar and the Zurich right after that. So this is pretty much the best three consecutive starts here that he's had, a 26th, an 8th, and a 20th. I think that, I don't know, this is kind of uncharted ground for him.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, Streelman's been around for a long time. I'm talking about legitimately playing 3 weeks in a row. And so the fact that, it's not just three starts in a row and trying to keep it going, but let's see, and I'm clicking on it. This is always good.
There's
TV
that gap there. Yeah, there's a little bit of a gap.
Clicking around. Let's see. So I'm looking at, he went Players Honda match play, like you said, 3 weeks in a row, and progressively got better at that point. He did the same thing, Phoenix, Pebble, and Riv. That was kind of a mishmash, got a little worse at the end there. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. In fact, that was a 5-week stretch in a row. And so there's not much you can tell from that. I'm looking for, let's see, when he was building on starts. Oh, I don't have much here. Let's see. Last year to start, the return to golf started at Colonial, missed the cut. Heritage missed the cut. 2nd at the Travelers Championship. That might be more of a course history kind of thing than anything else, Chris. I don't know that that's necessarily going to teach us anything either. But again, go back and just kind of check out what Streelman does on week 3 of 3 in a row and see if that's one you want to buy into there.
No, that's a good point. That's definitely something I'm going to look into before I smash that bet for sure. And were there any top 10 guys that you were looking at that were catching your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I'll play bigger odds for top 10. Like Keegan's a guy I'll look for top 10. I like Ricky top 10 this week. I might even go Matt Wallace for a top 10. But if you want to play a little more conservative top 10s, like I said, Hovland's my guy this week. I'm riding Hovland. I like Neiman. Tony Finau I like for a top 10. I'll give you Patrick Reed as well. Coming off a missed cut. Tends to play really well coming off missed cuts. So might actually help him that he didn't make the weekend at Colonial last week.
Yeah, well, he's typically a guy that's like a big around the green guy. I want to just look at what he's done recently around the green. It looks pretty solid. He's actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I believe 14 out of the last 16 rounds, he's been the positive around the green. His last
sporting short game is tremendous. Yeah, it really is.
So he's been obviously locked in on his around the green game. If I'm looking at anything that he hasn't really done amazing, his approach shot's actually been kind of off of late. The PGA Championship was not a good spot for him for his approach game. And also the U.S. Open. This is over 2019. I apologize. Let me go back up over here.
As you look at Reed's stuff, I'll tell you that his driving distance is what bothers me right now about him. His driving distance is near the bottom of the list on the PGA Tour this season. He was hitting a 44 and a half inch driver at one point, tried to gain some length, went to a 46-inch driver. That was too much. It's like Goldilocks trying to dig through the porridge, and finally he settled on, I believe, a 45 and a half inch driver, 45-inch driver, and has found what he thinks is a nice balance of finding that distance while being able to keep the ball in play and not spraying it. So I think that's important for Reed because, quite frankly, I mean, your short game can be as good as anybody's out there, but if you're near the bottom of the list hitting the ball 285 off the tee when other guys are hitting at 325, that's a huge disadvantage that you're sitting at right there. So on a course like Muirfield Village, they've added about 70 yards of length to it. It's playing somewhere in the 74-50 range this week. I think that you're going to need to move it out there a little bit. So I'll be very interested to see Patrick Reed's driving distance for the first round. He's a guy that maybe I wait on and I add him to the card after the first round once I see some of those stats.
Yeah, so I want to get back into that now that I'm up to the present time and everything. The round green game, like I said, has been real solid. And you even brought that off this tee. He's been in the negative 4 out of the last six rounds. I mean, it's because of that distance. Strokes gained off the tee just favors distance so much. That's kind of why I kind of not crazy about the strokes gain off the tee numbers as much, because I feel like accuracy should have more of a factor with it.
Nah, it doesn't. All the numbers show out that you'd rather be hitting a wedge from the rough than an 8-iron from the fairway. I mean, that's why Bryson is drinking 7 protein shakes every day. That's why Brooks is in the gym every single day, because hitting it further is ultimately going to be way more important than hitting it straight.
So, but he's kind of like the exception because he's so good at hitting out of the rough, correct?
Who's that? Bryson?
Bryson. Yeah.
Not really. I look at Bryson as one of the game's best drivers of the golf ball, if not the best. I look at him as one of the better putters. His chipping game's decent. He's actually got a decent wedge game around the greens. I think his iron play is sort of what's holding him back, if anything, right now. And honestly, out of the rough, he's not great. And that's something that he needs to work on. He needs to figure out, that game from 100 to 150 yards of getting his ball in a better proximity to the hole. And so, that said, though, I guarantee you if Bryson spent an entire year just hitting 5 irons off the tee and keeping it in play, that he would not be near the player he is right now, just walloping drivers and hitting them in the rough a decent amount of the time, 50% of the time. Bryson having 30 more yards but being in the fairway is not going to help him. Now, it might help other players, and maybe Patrick Reed at some point said, you know what, hey, I just want to be in the fairway. I can't hit the ball out of the rough right now. I don't know why, whatever's happening. But for Bryson, no. And I would say that by and large, the stats bear out, Chris, that length is way more important than accuracy right now off the tee.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the distance is going to help, I feel like, for the most part. But I was kind of shocked that you said he wasn't really good at hitting out of the rough. I feel like commentary all the time is always talking about him being such a great hitter out of that high rough because he is so strong and everything.
He is, and obviously that's what helped him at Wingfoot last year. I just think on a consistent basis, I have a problem with his iron game. I think that, and again, this is nitpicking. He's one of the game's best players, but if he can dial in that iron game at some point, and he's done it for brief spurts of time, and we've seen how good he can be when his irons are on. But if he can do that for a full year at a time, he's going to be the best player in the world. I just don't know that he can figure out those the pitching wedge, the 9-iron, the 8-iron, to the extent where he can just be in the rough and just not worry about it and hit it tight and give himself good looks at birdie every single time.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he is a great putter that gets overlooked a lot. He's fantastic putting. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if I'm picking a winner here, Patrick Cantlay, I am spraying a little bit, 22-1. I saw on one of the books, but this is a guy I usually don't pick the win, and it's Matsuyama. I just have a good feeling about him this week. I think his approach game has been excellent. His around the green game's been good, and I think his putter has been trending in the right direction as well. I usually don't take him to win, but I'm going to roll with Hideki this week.
I like him this week. Like I said, I just feel like it's too soon coming off that other big win, and whether it's just sort of the law of averages, which doesn't really exist, as we all know, in the analytics game, but we still like to talk about it anyway, or what it is. But I just don't feel like Hideki's ready to win another big event so soon after still coming off that afterglow of winning at Augusta National. But again, I do like him. My favorite outright this week was Victor Hovland. I don't like the number that he came out at. Maybe I hold off a little bit on Hovland and wait to bet him, see if he maybe shoots an even par round in the first round. He's 6 back. I think that would be a nice place to jump in and get him. But Joaquin Niemann's the other guy that I'm going to play outright this week, and I'm going to have a good stake. And again, I will probably have some Keegan as well. I think Keegan's ready to win. The good thing about betting Keegan, and we've talked a lot about him on the show so far, is that you know what you're getting, and that when he's at his best, he's proven he can win a major championship, he can win a World Golf event, he can win a FedEx Cup playoff event. He can beat the best in the world. He's done it before. So when he gets into contention on Sunday afternoon, you should have some confidence that he can hang in there and he can win a golf tournament. So I can see him winning this one.
All right, very nice. I like it a lot. Before you go, I just want to have a little fun with DFS lineup. Let's just make a lineup. I think it'd be fun. Let's see if I'm going to throw in some, maybe some single entry. We'll see how it turns out. But you're the guest here. I'm going to let you fire away at the first guy over here.
Okay, I mentioned it earlier, and I'm building a lot of lineups. Usually you think about building lineups, it's building lineups around one of the big name guys, and you're like, all right, I'm going to spend a lot of money, and I'm going to build around him. Mm-hmm. I'm building lineups around Kyle Stanley this week. I don't know where they got the pricing on him from, but at 6,100, that's ridiculous. The guy's been playing some really solid golf. He's a good ball striker. He's got great history on this golf course. So I'm going to plug in Kyle Stanley, and I feel like we can then build some good players around Stanley this week.
Absolutely. So that gives us an average of 8,780. I'm going to go a little bit lower than that. I talked about him earlier. Actually, you brought him up in a top 20 market. I think he's a great DFS play this week. Shane Lowry at 8,400. I really like him here. I don't know how much he's going to be owned, but I'm hoping not a lot.
Yeah, I would think Lowry, again, it's so tough. And I feel like it's pretty balanced this week. I don't know that there's any player out there. There's a lot of steam right now for Cantlay. I could see some Morikawa maybe and Hovland being up there, Finau maybe. But I think across the board, this is a week where it's going to be pretty even. All right, so we've got our first two guys on there, Lowry and Stanley. Look, I may keep going low price guys and let you fire away with some of the big names. So I'm going to take another guy that I really like this week. I've mentioned him a few times, but undervalued on DFS, Matt Wallace at 7,400.
All right, nice. 7,400. That gives us an average of 9,366. You are definitely giving me some wiggle room over here. I am going to go. I'm going to try and see if I can get somebody that I feel like is not going to be owned that much. You know what? You're pretty high on him. I think I'm going to roll with him because I don't think a lot of guys are going to take him. Let's go with your boy Ricky Fowler. We'll do $8,000 right there for Ricky Fowler. It gives us a humongous average of 10,050. So we can really shoot for the stars with two golfers here.
Yeah, we can, and I know where I would go with these two picks. So I will spend 9,900 on my guy Victor Hovland this right here, and then I'm going to leave you with 10,200. And if you can't figure out what to do with 10,200 on the board this week, maybe you're not doing the right game.
Okay, so I typically like to leave money off the board. It's hard for me to do because I'm like 10,200. Let me use it all, but it's always like the trap play. I feel like, you know what? I'm going to throw in a guy that, you know what? I don't think he's going to be owned that much. Give me Xander Schauffele for 9,700.
Wow. Okay, I was setting you up. I gave you the volleyball spike for JT, and you just kind of instead tapped it over the net with Xander Schauffele, and that's okay. I don't mind that at all. I like Xander. Great story Xander came out with this week. Phil talked a little bit about it last week, saying that he played Xander 3 days in a row at the farms out at Rancho Santa Fe during the pandemic last year. And first day, Xander shot 64, got in Phil's wallet, got some money out of him. Next day, they went back out. Xander shot 63. Phil paid him again. Next day, Xander goes out, makes birdie on 15, and he's chirping a little bit at Phil, and Phil goes, I'll press. And they get up to this 220-yard par 3. And Phil, even though it wasn't his turn, Phil teed up first, and he hit a bullet to 4 feet. And Phil's kind of puffing his chest out like, all right, I got him now. I'm going to get this kid. And Xander makes a hole-in-one.
Unbelievable.
And Xander wound up win the match, win the press. And Phil, to his credit, he credited Xander because he said he went home that night and said, Amy, I need to get better. Like, I can't win golf tournaments if I'm playing against that guy right now because that guy is way better than I am. And so trust me when I say this, that Phil will take a 3-day loss to Xander Schauffele and getting some money out of his wallet and handing it over to Xander if it means that a year later he's winning his 6th career major championship.
Absolutely. And you know what's pretty wild though? With the Charles Schwab thing, I saw all the videos where they're talking about his first round. I was like, yeah, I was kind of +3, not really that great, but I won the PGA, so who cares?
Phil is the best. Phil is the absolute best. I saw him 5 minutes after he won. He was doing an interview with us at SiriusXM, and Mark Carnevale was doing the interview, and I was just kind of standing off to the side. And I've gotten to know Phil very well over the years, and I was just going to give him a little fist bump and say congrats. And I kind of walk up, and he sees me, and I kind of walk up like this to give him the fist bump, and he wraps me in a big bear hug and I pat him on the back, and he's got a big smile on his face. I'm like, man, congrats, man. I'm so happy for you. And he looks at me, and I'm waiting for like a, hey, thanks. I appreciate it. He looks at me and goes, I hope you got some of that action. I hope I won you a little bit this week.
Talking.
And I'm like, Phil, you're the absolute best. He's like, he's like, I know how you roll. I roll like that too. And I'm like, he's the absolute best. I say it all the time. I know there are people out there that don't like Phil. If I can have 15 minutes just hanging out with a player in a player parking lot or in the locker room and just kind of shooting the shit for a little while, Phil's my guy every single time. We have so much fun whenever we're just kind of hanging out and talking about life.
Oh, yeah. He seems like such an awesome guy to hang out. I mean, I'm an Arizona Wildcat, and I hate pretty much all the Sun Devils. He's the exception to the rule. I always tell people this all the time. Like, I can't stand Sun Devil players, this and that. But I'm like, Phil is the man, though. It's the total exception. The guy seems like a great guy you could joke with, have a beer with, whatever. You can have a fun round with him. And I think it even showed, too, when he had those matchups, the celebrity ones and everything, when he was with Charles and everything. He was very supportive, and he just seemed like a really good, genuine guy. He can bust balls a little bit, which we all like, and, still be a cool guy at the same time. And I don't feel like he feels like he's that much above anybody for the most part. I mean, yeah, he'll do these things on the commercials like, I'm Phil Mickelson, and I'm having this beer, but you can't have this with me, but you can have it with other people.
It's great. All that stuff is good. And he's got into the social media thing. I did a piece with him 2 years ago at the 3M Open where I asked him about it. He's like, no, I'm not that good yet. I'm just kind of getting into it and seeing what it's all about. And here we are 2 years later. And if he's not the king of golf Twitter, he's at least on Mount Rushmore alongside the Max Homos and the Eddie Pepperells and the Joel Damons and guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I want to thank you again for coming on. Finally, our lineup is Kyle Stanley, Shane Lowry, Matt Wallace, Ricky Fowler, Victor Hovland, Xander Schauffele, millionaire lineup. I'm going to put it in. Why not? See what happens. Maybe I can boost up the old podcast maybe, but we'll see. But I wanted to thank you again, Jason. You can find him on the Action Network and also on PGA Tour live and radio. One of the best to do it for betting golf and just golf in general. Thank you again, Jason. It means a lot for me having you on the show, being a great ambassador to the golf world.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you having me. This is fun.
All right. Thanks a lot.